Hey,
Good morning.
how you doing, Alicia? How's everything going?
Very well. How are you, Andrew?
Not too bad. I'm gonna try to take Mark's place, but that's impossible. I think maybe we should introduce ourselves first. How about you go first?
I'm Leisha Leslie here with you this morning, every Friday morning. Option Pit Live, former SIBO market maker. Option Pit. We are Option Pit.
We are Option Pit, and I'm Andrew. What am I? The President, Chief Operating Officer. You're also the Queen of the Candlesticks, by the way. You forgot that, but it doesn't sound as. I guess it's better if I say Queen of the Candlesticks.
Yeah, I don't
And,
think I should.
I'm the Director of Education, Option Pit. I was a SIBO market maker too, Pecos market maker, and it seems like a million years ago, but it's not that far long ago. And
Sure
I've been at
does.
Option Pit with Mark for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, teaching retail traders. Leisha, you've been here 6? No, 5?
Yes.
It's been a
Isn't that
while.
crazy?
Yes, it is. It's absolutely nuts. So hey, speaking of nuts, what do you make of the inflation numbers this week? I guess that's like it's the Ides of March, the famous Julius Caesar getting ambushed by Brutus and his cohort. But
Right.
I feel like we got a little bit ambushed by the inflation numbers today. What do you think?
Well, the one day they were rallied and the next day they didn't. So I
Yeah, it looked like we didn't care. And then yesterday's number, I think, was much hotter than expected. The morning opened up pretty strong.
Yes, we did.
And then everything faded. And then you had kind of that instant. I guess if we could share my screen here for a second, if you guys are ready for that. I've got here this now. And I think this is, I'll cover more of this today, but it is it literally looks like we fall off a cliff. All of a sudden, the liquidity just goes away. And
fear.
Things are moving along. It just, again, off a cliff. And then where does the rally come from at the end of the day? I didn't see any news, nothing really of consequence either way. And then boom, and then we're back up to, I'm not going to say back up to the open, but pretty close. I'm just going to pull up SPY here.
It was like 25 points on SPX, wasn't it? Off the bottom.
Yeah, it was like instant.
10, 15, 20, 25 minutes.
Yes, I mean, anybody that owns some puts, and I have some like at weekly profit cycles and, just kind of laying around, I'm like, okay, we actually might print something. We might print some money today. And then no, like total turnaround. And right now things look a little softer. There's no real economic news today. Normally on Fridays, we have something to kind of bounce off of, but nothing today. So I find this action, at least for SPX, like the market thinks, or some people think that they're going to drop rates this year. Do you think after seeing these numbers that there's any shot that rates are going down?
I don't understand, and maybe it's just my ignorance of economics or whatever. I don't understand the rush to change the interest rate. They're just settling in, right? I just don't get it. Why the rush to change them? Why can't we have some kind of interest rate?
Yeah, I think the uncertainty around rates, like when I was, in your market maker, when things like you can think about, times when like the rate picture wasn't really a question, right? They're going to raise
not like now, no.
And now it's continuous, and I think, at least my nose anyway, from doing this for a while, is the more unstable the rate outlook looks, the more volatility we potentially could have. And I'll show you where I think that is showing up in a minute or two.
Okay.
And the fact that I think if everybody just knows, like you said, that rates are going to stay at where they are, whether 4 or 5%, whatever the heck they are,
We can move on.
then we move on.
Right. We move on from there.
But if you're going to buy a house and you think rates are coming down, 200 basis points, next year, you're going to hold off, right? So like the whole thing with inflation is, oh, if I think something's going to be more expensive next year, I'm going to buy it now. And I, the fact that this is still discussed even, well, it's always going to be discussed, but it's on the table, I think, is a little crazy, to be honest. And it looks like we're still selling off a little bit pre-open. But anyway, that's kind of my take is sort of the basic instability into all-time highs, which, market sells off all the time. That is not a point. But what I will talk about in a minute or so is it's kind of the nature of the rally that has been so odd, right?
Why do you say that?
Well, it's 13 weeks straight up with no real pullback. So if we look,
this is true.
So we look at like a 30-day chart here since the beginning.
We're in a bull market, though, Andrew.
That's true.
Bullish. I'm bullish. The SPX to 5,300 by June, I would say. Yeah, not this week or next week, but like June. I mean, I think we can get a couple pullbacks. But go ahead. I'll show you after you're done.
Okay. So anyway, I just thought without usually have a pullback, you get some kind of relief for volatility. So what I wanted to just do is talk a little bit about a VIX in this rally. And to be honest, I think if the government's going to spend $3 trillion in deficit spending, Fed is going to be relatively accommodative, especially with what they did with the banks last year. Like all that money is going into the market and stocks are going to go up. So I agree we're going up. It's kind of the way we're doing it that I find a little odd. So if you can pull up the chart of Ruben of 9-day VIX and put it up there for people, the one that I gave you. Not that one, the other one. Not that one, the other one. There we go. There we go. So this is an indicator. 9-day VIX is basically the VIX calculation for SPX options around 9 days from now. And what you can see is since December, when we hit a low, that 9-day number has been consistently going up, right? So we're having we're having a series of higher lows. So what happens normally, what I would say in kind of a normal bull market, maybe, I don't know what normal means, but
yeah,
you have like periods where stocks don't really do a whole lot and volatility kind of comes in a little. It drifts down. What's been happening because we keep rallying so strongly is the volatility has never had a chance to kind of pull back a little bit. And as you can see, all the short-term vol numbers continue to make higher lows. So, and again, in my feeling right now, that's an expectation of that we're going to keep moving. Well, we're going to keep moving higher, but having a range that's sort of continually growing. It's not, we're kind of getting like slow and realized vol is getting down to 5%. It's still a growing volatile bull, and I'm going to say not dissimilar from the late 90s at this point. Cause I mean, do you remember there was a time where you couldn't buy options because nobody would sell them. I remember distinctly that, anytime I was trading any one of the internet stocks that were hot, there were no option sellers, only option buyers.
Right.
And I think we're seeing a little bit of that now, right? In some of these stocks with upward skew and stuff like that. So I just want to note that this is a bull. Again, we haven't seen this for 20 years. It's taken a couple I want to say 24 years ago is hard to believe, but I've seen it before. It's just been a while since I've seen it, I guess. And I'll leave it there so you can talk about what you're looking for on the chart. So
yeah, You can, here's my ES chart. This is bull flagging right up here. I think we're gearing up for another leg higher, unless we completely fall out and violate this little uptrend line today, and trade lower, like 51.61 on ES.
Okay.
This to me is bull flagging, and I think we're going higher. Here's SPX. My support in SPX to watch is 5,100 right there, of course.
Okay.
Right?
Well, you're giving me
Makes
a level
sense?
for my SPY puts. Pull up SPY too.
Sure.
Like basically, when I set up trying to close a put, I'll hold it. If it breaks through the level, I want to ride it. But if it doesn't, hits the level and kind of bounces, then I don't have to kill it, take whatever I can get, move along. So
There'll be some support right there on those, right around there, right around 511.30.
okay. Let's see.
And the upside's 523, almost 524 on SPY.
Yeah, because I feel like 5,100, like that handle, or even the 5,000, it feels like a million miles away. Like,
Yes, it
how are we gonna get down there? And normally I would say, okay, that's not that big of a deal, right? But it's hard to see a sell-off that actually holds in this market. It's so
Yes.
it is so difficult. How about Q? If you want to give us a little look at for
Q
Q.
support comes in at 436.71, and these previous highs will be the resistance 446.87.
Now, do you see anything with kind of the upper bound pattern with Q? It looks like it's kind of, I don't know, it looks like it's making a little bit of a flag there. It hasn't been able to make new highs, and
Yeah,
there.
I would say this is definitely like a triangle, right? Descending
Okay.
triangle. It has some resistance up here, though. It's at the top of my pitchfork. Doesn't mean it won't trade above it, but it's just kind of flagging and gearing up to pop over that resistance, in my opinion.
Right.
MACD is still negative, but to me, yes, flagging to trade higher.
So, because it feels like yesterday, like Apple and Google and Microsoft and Amazon sort of lifted us.
Yeah.
It was kind of the savior of the market.
Oh yeah,
and
Google had a nice rally yesterday.
yeah, so we'll see if it shows up today, right? Because Tesla looked really poor yesterday. Actually, the
Tesla,
market cap
yeah.
of Tesla is getting so small. That's another subject for us in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting less important, right? As it drops in price.
Look at Microsoft breaking out. Microsoft just
Unbelievable.
wants to trade higher. Yeah.
It feels like it's going to be the winner of everything. It's the new. I don't want to say Apple's being replaced, but I want to say
Before we
Apple's
go,
being replaced.
before we go on to Tesla, let's look at crude is finally catching some love and going higher. May have a little pause today, but crude's breaking out. Bonds are rolling over, looking lower in my opinion, 10-year.
Yep.
And Bitcoin's gotten hammered. It's huge reversal yesterday.
I heard there was an unwind of a trade. I don't have any. I'm not positive about it yet, but that's what I was reading about Bitcoin. Somebody was trying to unwind an R between that Michael Saylor stock and
Is that right?
I saw it on Twitter, but it's hard to it's hard to
decipher,
believe anything you read on it. But
yeah,
it sounded like it could be real.
it stopped at my support level right there, which is pretty cool. 65.5555, 65,500. This support level will now be new resistance on the upside.
Okay.
So that comes in right around 68.8. There'll be resistance. But it held there. It'll be interesting to see what it does today.
You know
gold.
what else?
Let's look at gold real fast.
Oh yeah, let's take one look at it. I thought gold again. It's holding up here, but again, in my view, I think just because the way the inflation picture is looking, it's going to keep picking up. But
yes, this is bull flagging at the top of my pitchfork, but that's pausing and bull flagging. I definitely think gold has another leg higher.
all of a sudden people are, you know, it's like they wake up to certain areas, you know, everything was hot. Like the stuff that was hot was AI and all the money was flowing there. All
Yeah.
of a sudden now you start looking and then that pauses and then eyeballs start to look for other things and gold is going to be very inflation-esque.
Right. We
So
want
we'll
to talk
see.
about Tesla real fast?
Yeah, I was gonna do a little thing on Tesla. I was gonna bring Frank in.
Oh, okie dokie. Let's bring Frank
Hey,
in.
just let's bring in Frank. So just everybody by way of introduction, Frank is our Washington insider at Option Pit. He writes Power Moves. He's an private equity investor, and he is one of the guys that shows me a bunch of stocks that I would have never thought of, but his job is to look at them. So he today is going to give us a little bit about maybe the next green revolution. So with much ado, Frank, you could take it away and say hi to everybody. And I'll
Well,
ask.
good morning. I hope everybody's enjoying their coffee or tea or whatever floats your boat in the AM. I'm a coffee drinker myself. But green revolution, how many revolutions do we need, Andrew?
I don't know. I think I didn't. The green revolution started. I don't think they ended it yet. Is the biggest. It's my biggest question.
I think it's a snowball rolling downhill. To be honest with you, it's gonna keep going. Look, you got, according to your ivory tower COP28 climate summit Davos private jet flying crowd, we need to cut emissions by 2050 and do it pretty heavily, and that means weaning ourselves off fossil fuels and killing cows or whatever the new hot topic is. I'm really not sure. Which, by the way, I do my part. I eat steak at least once a week, so trying to help out there. But look, if you start looking at, if we get rid of fossil fuels as energy sources in particular, and that's where it all comes down to, right? If we get rid of fossil fuels as energy sources, what's left? You really got, you got wind, solar, and nuclear, and kind of the bastard stepchild of those three has always been nuclear. Ironically, everyone wants, people still think about 3 Mile Island or Fukushima, and yes, some bad things have happened in the past, but can we be a carbon-free, which is the goal, right? I mean, the Davos crowd says we need to be carbon-free by 2050. And can we achieve that? And I read some interesting stats. I'm just going to fire them off for you real quick. If we want to, from where we are today, if we want to go zero emissions by 2050, this is what we need to build. One 2.1 gigawatt reactor a day, every day until 2050, or 3,002 megawatt wind turbines each day and every day until 2050, plus a 2.1 gigawatt nuclear power plant every day for half the days until 2050, or 96 square miles of solar panels a day for the next 25 years. So it's not going to work. And really, when you break it down, what do you really need? You need to embrace the nuclear option. Otherwise, you're never going to reach your green climate goals. And even if you look at what Biden wants to do by 2035, all of these, the pigskin prognosticators, as we used to call the football crowd, they'll tell you that, today we get about the U.S. gets about 25% of its grid power from nuclear. That needs to quickly ramp up to 50% if we have any hope of hitting just the US's climate goals. And that doesn't speak to the rest of the world. So, I start looking at that as an opportunity, going all the way back to the mining side, the uranium players, and then moving up to, who's going to actually build these reactors and what kind of reactors are we going to build?
Right.
And, you got the big mega ones, what they call the gigawatt reactors, they're putting out 1,000+ watts, but they've got downside, right? Because where do you put them? I don't want one in my backyard. I don't think many people do. Plus they take on average about 10 years to build. to bring online. Huge capex to build those suckers. You know, there are some pluses to them. You know, they do actually provide a very stable power grid because of all the infrastructure that goes in around them, so you can build off of that. But you know, they take a long time. They've got some bad juju around them, if you will, from things gone by, and people are certainly worried about the environmental impact of the waste. So, one of the things that I've been looking at is, there's been a lot of tech coming out of really the military side, which, as you know, is I'm very tied into things that go on with the government and the military,
right?
But a lot of that small nuclear reactor technology that powers ships is making its way into the commercial zone, and it's coming in the form of what they call SMRs, or small modular reactors. And they're typically about a third of the output or less of the big ones. So you're anywhere from 25 to 300 watts of power is what these things generally put out. But they've got some upsides. One, much lower capex to build and deploy, much shorter time frames. Pretty new technology. So from a safety factor, they are they're being viewed very positively. Obviously, they're not prolific, but they're viewed very positively. And the big thing is, one of the problems with the large reactors is you can't put them everywhere. There's grid issues, and you get a lot of, as Andrew, you get a lot of bleed in the lines, and you lose a lot of that power as you try to spread it out across the U.S. With these SMRs, you can put them where the power needs to be, which means we can now start providing nuclear power to more rural areas that we could not in the past. And now, so
you've told me a couple of names. Do you have a couple of names that you would look at? Because on a while ago, when you first talk to me about this when we first started talking about the subject at the beginning of the year, you told me to look at SMR and GE. Do you still like those two names? Because SMR, is definitely, I got to thank you for that pick, because the stock up like threefold. And you guys can, I think we put up a chart before of SMR, Ruben, if you want.
Yeah, which the name, in case anybody is confused about it, is actually called NuScale Power.
Right.
And it's an interesting one, because they actually got one of the first nods from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for a small SMR reactor design, for a 50 megawatt reactor design. They got the nod for it. The problem is they don't have the pipeline of orders. And in fact, they had some orders going on in the Mountain West states that got canceled because of some politics and other budgetary issues. So it kind of gave them a bit of a black eye. But they do have this approval to deploy these really cutting edge reactors. They have gotten some looks overseas from some other, some foreign countries, and they're getting help from the U.S. government. The U.S. government is actually on their behalf marketing their reactors to foreign countries to try and get them, try and get them some name. But they haven't deployed a single reactor. They're getting some good press, which has been driving the stock price, but they haven't actually deployed a reactor.
Early days.
And you know me, I love trading on rumors.
Right.
So it's been a good rumor trade. But then you tie in, General Electric, right? And General Electric's been involved in some of the big reactors. They're heavily into green energy. If people don't know, GE is the largest wind turbine manufacturer in the world. So they've definitely made a very large commitment to the green energy side, and they partnered with Hitachi to build SMRs. Now, some interesting things. Their SMRs are a little bigger. So where NuScale is really looking at that 50 megawatt, these GE Hitachis are looking more in the 300 megawatt range. So a little bbit bigger, higher output, which I think some people might argue in the end are more efficient when you start deploying them, because they can cover, they can provide more power for the the acreage that you're putting them in front of. Again, GE is really doing well in the green space. So I got to tell you, the GE, I think it's called the BWRX 300 reactor. I'm taking a good look at it, and they are getting some again, making good headway overseas. They picked up contracts with a number of foreign countries, foreign entities. So both of these companies, I think, are on a pretty good roll. But GE's actually deployed. GE has actually gotten some contracts. NewScale's having a bit of a tougher road to to climb that ladder. So I got to tell you, I've liked the SMR trade a lot, but I think GE going forward might be the better look.
Okay, all right. I think it's kind of one of those things where I'd probably write puts in GE and take the money and buy some SMR, like do some kind of, I don't know, trade something along those lines that we've been doing in Option Pit, which is and Mark's love GE as well. So it has been a trade that we will continue to watch it, and hopefully, right, the better those stocks do, the more that we're actually going to produce some energy. So
yeah, look, now
win-win on it. Win-win.
I will say, on the flip side, and I haven't really seen that this is going to negatively impact them, but you've had a lot of wind farm cancellations over the last 6 months,
right?
So that side of their business is going to take a bit of a hit. So just if you start looking at balancing factors, that might be one.
Okay, well you can stay on and bring Alicia back in because we want to talk Tesla, our stock of the week. And the reason why is
it's gotten hammered.
Tesla is the biggest loser in the S&P 500. I never thought I would actually say that.
I know.
And also, Frank, you could also maybe chime in a little bit on Musk's pay package if you have anything on that. The fact that it was just canceled, but ever since that pay package news was announced, the stock has kind of gone straight down. So anyway, from a chart perspective, Alicia, what do you think? And then Frank, if your $50 billion pay package got voided, you'd be a little grumpy as well. So
yeah,
I'll dream about it tonight. But
okay, all right. So what do you think of Tesla here, Alicia, as it's kind of drifting lower?
I have 159 as the very bottom rung of my pitchfork, which it's almost traded down to.
Okay.
I would be watching for a change in trend candle down here.
All right. Yeah, because today it looks like it has a little bit of a bounce, and it bounced off the lows yesterday.
Yeah. Below that, I have 135.
Oh, so it could be Uglyville if it just lets go.
I just feel like.
Hey, Alicia, can I ask you a question? How much historically has Musk's fingers are involved in so many different things? How did like SpaceX and Tesla move together?
I don't know. I've never really looked at that.
Just because, big news yesterday SpaceX hit a home run yesterday. So
because SpaceX is I don't think that's listed yet.
It's not listed, but I just look at the news. What might that impact?
And there's a correlation between the two. Oh, okay.
They had a really big news day yesterday.
Well, it feels like all the kind of negative press from Twitter has been negatively impacting Tesla. But no matter what the positive news from SpaceX that comes out, which is a huge government contractor, is not changing. It's sort of like it depends what kind of news it is, I think, Frank. At least the way I just observe it. But
I have a theory. After hearing JP Morgan pays $10 billion a year for the last 4 years in fines and penalties for, illegal or misrepresenting, all having to do with their trading, and they still managed to make a ton of money. I feel like, and I know it sounds crazy, and it takes me back to the days on the floor when we would get picked off, and they always know. I just feel like there was a memo out on Elon. They can't stand him, and they're like, everybody sell Tesla.
Yep.
I know it sounds stupid and crazy, but I believe it.
Well, can I give you a little inside baseball?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So I was at a conference sponsored by the Army 2 weeks ago, and they had a speaker on stage who said, in no uncertain terms, with great conviction, whether it's true or not, that that Elon Musk is taking orders from the Chinese Communist Party, and that is the view and the push that is going on right now with the government, because they think he has too much power. He has told people to pound sand on different issues, and he has the ability to cut off a lot of communication channels with his Starlink. And so I think that they are really looking at him as having too much power. He's also a little more right-leaning than anybody in the world today currently is in government.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think the government would very much like to see Bezos, Blue Origin, succeed over
Sure.
SpaceX.
They're picking and choosing. Yes.
Yeah, and they're trying to make a switch there. Unfortunately, Blue Origin's a bunch of crap. So. But yeah, so it was a very interesting comment to me, and this guy just said it as just a matter of fact statement. He's in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party.
Come on. I'm a fan of Elon, so I'm not a believer. I saw a SpaceX launch in person. I'm just a big fan.
Yeah, it's.
I don't believe it.
But that sentiment though feels like it's working its way into the stock, Frank. And I agree with you, Alicia, on that part. Like, I don't really see the reason why they hate it so much. So I've started like a little mini back spread here to see if I can start picking up some shares. I'm not in a rush yet, because you don't want, if everybody's going to hate it for a while, you don't want to get in the way. But
right.
But I think it's
Blue Rose. Blue Rose. Screw the government. I'm with you. Love that.
So so anyway, I thought it was worth highlighting that, probably one of the more dynamic companies is the one that's down the most in the S&P 500, which was, I didn't have that on my dance card for 2024. But as we all know, the beginning of the year can be quite different than the end of the year. So
your dance card. That's hilarious, Andrew.
Yeah. But another thing too is, but again, opportunity. So, as long as you didn't sell puts at 250, you're looking at it like, okay, what's the opportunity? So, like, I like the way you're looking at the charts, Lisa. It's kind of in an odd spot. Like, it could break to a lower level, but kind of sitting here and see if it holds up. Like, this is a good spot to see if it holds up.
Yeah, we need to look for a change in trend candle or some kind of pattern that's building a base. Or it could take another leg lower.
Right.
Yesterday's action was pretty ugly.
And I think that's worth watching for. So I guess now we got about 10 minutes left. I guess I should do my trading vehicle.
That's right.
I'm not going to do the cage match, because without Mark, the cage match, we really need Mark for that. So I'll do it's time for my
time for Andrew's trading vehicle. Let's drive on through.
Vehicle. So if you can put up my slide. Of course, Mark describes it. So the slide is with the SPY chart and the 4 little dots, Ruben. Anyway, so my trading vehicle this week is, when do you want to buy a strangle, or we're going to use SPY, buy a strangle or sell an iron condor. So literally you can't have two trades that are more different than that. So the idea is, and what I would at Option Pit, we teach our students to be Greek centric. And all that means is every trade has a Greek profile. What's the gamma, the delta, the theta, the vega, all that stuff. And you have to love the Greek profile that you have. So if you are buying a strangle, you're going to be long gamma. And gamma is just a change in delta for a $1 move in the underlying. And it doesn't matter if the underlying is $1,000 or $1. It's still, your gamma is a measure of for a $1 move in the underlying. So it's not price weighted. So if you think a stock is going to move a lot, you tend to want to have a long gamma trade, meaning the value of the options are going to change in the direction the underlying is going. If you don't think the stock is going to move very much, or the underlying is going to kind of sit, you want to have a short gamma trade. And short gamma trades tend to do better when the underlying is not moving very much. So an iron condor is a short delta trade. And I guess I wonder if I could draw something here for 1 second really fast. New. All right. And you guys can show my screen really quick here. So basically what I have is I have so if I have here's my P&L line here. And if I have an iron condor, it kind of looks like this, right? Where you make money in here as long as the stock kind of stays in this range here. And that's, again, I would say a short gamma trade. So you have to expect when I want to put one of these on that you're not going to have a lot of movement. So let's say you're thinking about a stock like next week, the FOMC is going to come out. And if you think a stock, the last year, every time the Fed has spoken, we have had these kind of, I'm going to say parabolic moves, 10, 15 point SPY. So I think if you have an iron condor on now to hold through that meeting, the trade would have a tough time because the underlying might fly up and then you're outside of your iron condor and you're scrambling. A straddle here, and let's just do a new one here. So your straddle, here's your P&L line. So your strangle kind of looks like this, sort of the opposite, right? Where you want the underlying to fly up and over the strike, or you want the underlying to really crash below the strike. So you're looking at it as something that is going to move away from the strikes hugely. So for my trading vehicle this week, I'm adding strangles that expire after the FOMC on Wednesday, and I have wrote some premium against them for Tuesday's date. But basically, I'm expecting us to move, and normally prior to the FOMC, volatility doesn't come down. So because everybody's kind of waiting for something to happen, so options tend to decay less fast than normal. And that's kind of the situation I see for this week. So from a trading vehicle point of view, I would prefer trading a strangle through the FOMC than an iron condor. And that's essentially the trade setup that I have, that I've told to my students at Option Pit. So let's go back to SPY. And I do have here, like right at the end here, I was going to do like a little quick order flow. So we talked SMR. And what I wanted to do here is, and then I'll bring Leisha here to kind of wrap up with Frank in about 1 minute. But I saw a bunch of, so somebody, oh, it's gone here, but I have it here, which you really can't, I don't know if you can see this very well, but somebody bought the 9 calls and the, where are we here? Was it August? Was it May? There's huge open interest here. I got to pull this up so I can see it a little better. Give me 1 second. So they bought the April 9 calls and April 5 puts. So this volume right here, they bought 9,000 of these and 9,000 of these. And I don't know if it is doubling the open interest or not, but huge buyers of the strangle for 1 week. So it is possible they just closed a strangle they sold into earnings. So, but anyway, this is something I'm looking at. So there is some big money flowing into SMR currently. And a question in here from Nasky. So a strangle is the opposite of an iron condor. And I would say basically, yes, it is. And with that, I guess we're kind of running out of time. I want to bring Leisha and Frank back here at the end. And so what do you guys think? There's a question today, how the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report could impact SPY today. So would that be enough to kind of move the needle? I was just looking for Bloomberg calendar here, which by the way, I recommend to anybody. Let me see here. Today is Friday the 15th. What time? So that should be hitting at around 10 o'clock. So, maybe some of these numbers will start to move the market and we'll get a trend later in the day. But again, I'm still in mind where we have a sell-off. If I own any SPY puts, which I have some, I'm getting rid of them on the sell-off because they're just not that big. And that's where I am until something wants me to change that. That's kind of where my head is. I don't know where you are, Alicia, but you kind of sound like on a similar vein.
Like I say, I'm longer short-term bullish. Does that make sense? Longer short-term?
Yep. It's a new way to be. It's a new way to be short. It's a new way to be bullish.
I think the consumer sentiment could move it a little bit. Maybe if it's just a blip or something, but I think it's moved it in the past, I would say.
Yeah, and also I think the market is so sketchy. Anything that looks remotely positive might make things fly. Other than that, I think that's our trading day. I think we're running out of time. Frank, thank you for coming by and explaining the nuclear thing to us.
My pleasure.
People that saw the show in February did okay. So that's not too bad.
Good job, Andrew. It's awesome.
And with that, I tried to do the hosting, take Mark's place. It's tough. It's hard to replace that guy because he does this very well. But from Frank, I guess you're our Washington insider, and Leisha, the queen of the candles. It is I, Andrew, COO of Option Pit, bidding you all adieu. Have a good trading day, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
All opinions expressed by Trader Hub contributors are solely the contributors' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Trader nor its affiliates and/or subsidiaries. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Hub contributors as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinion. The contributors' opinions are based on their own personal research, but neither Trader nor its affiliates and/or subsidiaries warrants its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Any trades or positions discussed or referred to by contributors may or may not be actual live trades or positions. Such information is not intended to be financial or investment advice. Trader Inc. is the parent company of Trader Brokerage Inc. Trader Brokerage Inc. and Trader Inc. are separate entities with their own products and services. Securities products and services are offered through Trader Brokerage Inc. Trader Brokerage Inc. is an independent subsidiary of Trader Inc., all rights reserved, member FINRA SIPC.